Alright guys, if you were just to base Black Myth Wukong off of the way that the games media and journalists are covering it, you would think that the developers spent a certain amount of time on a certain island of a certain formerly well-known billionaire, if you know who I'm talking about. They think that these people are flat out like the worst people on the planet, and it makes sense when you think about the fact that they also think gamers are the largest group of, toxic fans on the planet as well. There are so many articles and so many websites you can go to that just say, oh, gamers are the problem with the world, and these gamers are just these entitled babies, and they're so evil. And that's the way that the games media decides to cover them. So of course you saw this from PC Gamer saying, we asked Black Myth Wukong's developer about the controversy over its founder's past sexist remarks, but Game Science's only reply was no comment. Okay, so then you have .esports over here, again a website that I'd never even heard of before, where their associate editor was demanding that Black Myth Wukong needs more inclusivity and diversity. Now it's really funny because I've seen people, some of the unhinged leftists on Twitter, the guys who have Twitch accounts that have like 400 followers, and they're all like, oh, this game has no women. They even have like a women encounters counter like on their Twitch stream. And it's like, oh, I've encountered one woman the entire time. Okay, I've been playing the game and enjoying it, just beating the crap out of random animals and stuff. I don't really care if they're male or female or how they identify. It's a fun game. That being said, you'll even see Hypnotic pointing out that Nintendo enthusiast is over here going, we all share a common hobby and we should stand together to make sure as many people can enjoy it as possible. Citing this where it says, Black Myth Wukong's shameless lack of diversity is attracting the wrong type of fans. Again, pointing out that this isn't even a game available on Nintendo, so this is really cringe and embarrassing for them. But it gets better because again, the people from IGN who wrote the original hit piece on Game Science, who did the poor translation or the out-of-context translation, we will be generous and say that they just didn't understand the context or the references that they were translating. Rebecca Valentine, of course, went silent. She went to Reset Era and screamed and cried, basically saying how all these fans are just evil and how this is the most terrible thing that's ever happened to her, given the fact that this was like the pinnacle of her career. This article was the best work she'd ever done. And her counterpart who helped with the translation, of course, who pointed out, is actively telling people to go and pirate the game because if they enjoy it, he or she, I don't know if this is a man or a woman, to be honest at this point. I've seen people call Ki-hoon a man, or some people say it's a woman. I don't know. I don't care. Palestine flag, protected account. This person's irrelevant, so it does not matter. All they do is complain about how they're not paid enough money, which I'm sorry. If you're in an industry where you all believe you're underpaid, go get a different job. You can flip burgers at McDonald's for more money than you can to be a games journalist, apparently. So go do that. Now, of course, we're seeing Grumps pointing out that you can't talk about the success of Black Myth Wukong on r/gaming on Reddit. Apparently, the post was removed by moderators when somebody pointed out that the game has sold an incredible 10 million copies in just 3 days. And again, it's just censorship. It's people who don't want you talking about or enjoying this game. And then they'll tell you that you're just, making a bigger deal out of it than it really deserves, which we'll get to in a minute. But I want to point out that this game, even after suffering a Steam crash this morning, a few hours ago, is back up to 2.2 million players right now. Again, not dropping in popularity. They've reached an all-time peak 2 days ago of 2.4 million. It could still get higher. If things continue trending the way they're trending, people are going to continue to purchase this game. It's already crossed 10 million again across all platforms. Absolutely mind-blowing. But here's where it gets really good. Our old friend Ash Parrish from The Verge had to chime in, and this is gaslighting if you've ever seen it before. This is the definition of gaslighting, okay? Black Myth Wukong is too mediocre for all this drama. A perfectly fine action game has become saddled with a lot of baggage. Now, again, before we continue, I want to point out that Ash Parrish is somebody who has been completely on the side of Sweet Baby Inc. and the game consulting firms, and she's best buddies with Alyssa Mercante. I'm talking like hand in hand. She goes to all the shows and award shows with her and all the games conferences and stuff, defends her, tooth and nail. So this person is embedded in the games industry. She has worked at many different websites. So her article is completely gaslighting BS. But we'll go through a little bit of it here. Of course, I got it archived, so we're not going to give her any ad revenue on this one. Black Myth Wukong is a hit, breaking all-time peak player counts on account records on Steam, beating out Counter-Strike and Pow World to sell more than 10 million copies, blah, blah, blah. Most talked about game of the summer, but for all the wrong reasons. Discussion of Wukong on social media has been dominated by people arguing about what constitutes a valid criticism of a piece of art. Reviewers of the game have become the target of harassment, and the general tenor of conversation has reached a level of toxicity that would likely make any potentially curious player run screaming for the safety of yonder Fortnite hills, myself included. Despite that trepidation, I wanted to know what, if anything, about Black Myth Wukong as a game was worth all the digital ink being spilled on its behalf. And while no game is worth any kind of harassment, a few hours with Wukong have left me wondering, this is it? It's a gorgeous game, but its simplistic combat drags down the experience into something that's beautiful to look at, but aggressively just okay to play. Alright, so then she goes through, of course, the backstory of the game itself, has some elements of a Souls-like game. I think, honestly, a few people have compared it more to God of War or Devil May Cry, and I believe it's probably more accurately aligned with those games. And then, of course, it talks about how I've been playing on the Steam Deck, which probably isn't the best device for the game. Wukong isn't labeled as Steam Deck certified, but that hasn't stopped it from being the most played game on the platform of the week. That's because most of us play on our computer, Ash. Most of us don't play on a Steam Deck. You're a games journalist. Why are you playing on a freaking Steam Deck? Play on a PC or a PlayStation. What the hell's wrong with you? So then, of course, you see, despite its bombastic opening, the next few hours of the game did not come close to those initial heights, and combat is to blame. Enemies were trivially simple, and beyond one aberration of an encounter very early in the game, the bosses were too. After suffering ass-beating after ass-beating in Shadow of the Erdtree, I didn't mind Wukong's button-mashy combat style, but after a while, it got boring. Now, I'm going to come out here and say, look, I am not the MLG of the room here. I'm not like some pro gamer, and I've struggled with a few of the bosses. Not that I couldn't overcome it, but you just had to learn their attack patterns and the different skills and abilities that they use. That didn't mean that the game was simplistic or boring. Sure, it's not Elden Ring. It's not Dark Souls. That's okay. Not every game needs to be. But these are the same people who want to complain that Elden Ring is too hard. Now you're complaining that Wukong is too easy. Pick one. You can either have easy mode or not. You can't have it both ways. The game's narrative offset my boredom enough to keep me going. There's a bestiary with highly descriptive entries that read like fairy tales. Every time I defeated a new enemy, I'd pause to read the new entry. Look, I have no problem with that stuff. If you enjoy that stuff, I used to take the time to read all the entries. I would read every book in Morrowind back when I played that game. I don't have time for that now. So if that's what she cares about, good for her. That's fine. As a gamer, you can totally enjoy that crap. But again, I'm focused on playing the game. The gameplay itself, the setting, the scenery, the enemies, the different combat styles. I think those are great. Apparently, it's not enough for her. It'd be nice if the conversation about the game ended here, but unfortunately, Black Myth Wukong has launched with a lot of baggage. In 2020, the game was introduced in the West with a slick 13-minute trailer highlighting graphics and action that were impressive for a game still early in development. However, in November of last year, IGN released a report on Game Science, the studio making Wukong, that featured sexist comments from the game's developers made on Chinese social media. When asked about those comments in recent interviews with other outlets, Game Science response has been no comment. Yeah, because they're not going to give you the time of day, guys. Nobody trusts you. Look what happened with Kotaku, with Alyssa Mercante, with that farm sim, where she took a developer who doesn't speak English as a fluent language, completely took everything he said out of context, basically coerced him into saying a certain thing, clipped that out of the interview, out of like a 2-hour interview, and then when he asked her to redact it or change it, she basically said, that's not my job. I don't have to correct things for you. This goes on to say, then in the run-up to the game's launch earlier this week, screenshots of a document from Game Science began circulating. Yeah, their policy on not spreading feminist propaganda while playing it, which again, I'm totally in favor of. Pre-release embargoes are common, though they're usually limited to things like special character appearances, boss fights, plot twists, whatever. But it's odd for a developer to dictate how a reviewer can talk about a game. The strange move has made Wukong a cause célèbre within certain video game communities on social media. There is a small but loud contingent of gamers. Now, it's really funny. I brought up her other article, but if I click on this, I wonder what this is going to take us to here. Hang on a second. Small but loud contingent. Is it back to her article again? Ah, yes. So she has a obsession with things being small and loud. I wonder if she owns a chihuahua. The return of Gamergate is smaller and sadder. This is the same woman from this article who wrote this back in March, gaslighting once again the games community, gamers at large, telling them Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do anything that you guys think it does, and you guys are just a bunch of bigots. And of course, they're all celebrating on Twitter right now with this article. Alyssa Mercante telling Ash she's an effing legend. Ash going, y'all really doing all this hollering for a pretty game that's a 7.5 out of 10 at best. Again, 7.5 out of 10. I'd say it's 8.5 to 9, but we can disagree on that, fine. The game is fine. It is aggressively fine. It sold 10 million copies and has an 81 Metacritic. In the imaginary ass war some of y'all are fighting, you've won. Can you leave people alone now because you are scaring the hoes, people who might actually be interested in playing? Let me ask you a question, Ash. If we've won and you just want us to leave you alone so people can enjoy the game, why are you writing articles attacking people over all this crap? You're just rehashing the same stuff that's already been discussed 1,000 times, and yet here you are telling us that we're the problem, that we won't let people enjoy the game, when you are writing these gaslighting hit pieces on anybody who doesn't like games journalism or the games media, or who's just trying to enjoy the game without people like you infiltrating the hobby and ruining it for everybody else. And again, her article is just complete gaslighting. So, pointing out real quick before we get off of here, The Verge reporter Ash Parrish, and this is from That Park Place, accuses Japanese society of being violently racist amid backlash against Assassin's Creed Shadows. Same person who wrote the article. Sweet Baby Ink defender and The Verge's video game reporter Ash Parrish appears to endorse assassination attempt against President Donald Trump. Same person from The Verge who wrote that article. The Verge reporter Ash Parrish admits to excluding Sweet Baby Ink's cancellation campaign in order to push a woke narrative. Same author. So I'm going to leave you with that, guys. This person is, again, just as bad as Alyssa Mercante. She just doesn't tend to get the attention Alyssa does because Alyssa is so vocal, and everywhere she goes, she has to make a scene. I think Ash Parrish definitely has more respect for herself, given the fact that she keeps her clothes on a lot more than Alyssa does. But I'm going to leave it right there. Let me know what you think about this, and I will catch you on the next one. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.